Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you've ever found yourself wondering how the gears of government regulation actually turn when it comes to managing our natural resources, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're decoding a really fascinating bureaucratic puzzle. We are going to look exactly at how the DSR system works for minor minerals. Now, I know that sounds highly technical right off the bat, but stick with me, because by the end of our time together, you're going to see just how logically all of this fits together. All right, let's dive right in.
Here's a quick roadmap of what we'll be covering today. First, the legal catalyst. Second, the nodal authority. Third, the committee breakdown. And finally, updates and addendums.
So before we get into the new changes, we need to establish our foundation. What exactly is a DSR? Well, a District Survey Report, or DSR, is essentially a vital regulatory tool. According to Appendix X of the EIA notification, which stands for Environmental Impact Assessment, from way back in 2006, it's a mandatory framework used to manage and oversee mining activities. You can really just think of it as a comprehensive master plan for a given district. It maps out where the minerals actually are and how they can be extracted responsibly. Getting a handle on this concept is absolutely crucial to understanding how this entire regulatory system operates.
Now, right here is the actual primary source document we're analyzing today. It's the Office Memorandum from the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and Climate Change dated June 19, 2026. We aren't just talking in abstract theory today. We are looking directly at the official policy directive that fundamentally reshaped the DSR process. And as you'll see, this single piece of paper was issued to solve a very specific legal headache.
Section 1. The legal catalyst. Why was this clarification needed?
So what actually forced the government to issue this specific memo in the summer of 2026? Governments generally don't just issue clarifications out of nowhere, right? Well, it turns out the old system had a glaring loophole. As the Honorable High Court of Kerala pointed out, the old rules under that 2006 notification were crystal clear about who was responsible for preparing a DSR when it came to sand or riverbed mining. But for what they called other minor minerals, the rules just didn't specifically indicate the preparation authority. It was literally an administrative blank space. You can probably imagine the chaos on the ground when local officials were trying to regulate these minerals without a clear mandate. It was classic bureaucratic limbo. Let's look at this timeline to see how this all built up over the years, because it brilliantly illustrates the journey of environmental law. It all starts back in 2006 with that original EIA notification. Fast forward a bit to 2021, and we get a major Supreme Court judgment in the Pawan Kumar case that really shapes the landscape. But the absolute tipping point? That comes in November 2025, when the Kerala High Court explicitly demands clarification on that exact loophole we just talked about. That judicial pressure directly resulted in the June 2026 Office Memorandum we are dissecting today. The system was challenged, and the system adapted.
Section 2. The nodal authority. Who is in charge?
Okay, now that we understand the problem, that totally missing authority for other minor minerals, let's look at the solution provided in the memo. Who actually gets put in charge to fix this procedural gap? Well, here is the crucial takeaway: the State Department of Mines and Geology. The 2026 memorandum officially designates them as the nodal organization. And the really important part here is that this isn't just for those other minor minerals that caused all the confusion in the first place. This clarification unites the whole process. The State Department of Mines and Geology is now the clear authority for preparing the DSR for sand mining, riverbed mining, and all other minor minerals. One centralized authority to wipe out all that previous ambiguity.
Now, knowing who's in charge is great, but how does the DSR system actually work in practice? The memorandum lays out a really clear three-step workflow. Step 1, a specialized subdivisional committee does the heavy lifting to prepare the draft DSR. Step 2, that nodal authority we just learned about, the State Department of Mines and Geology, takes that draft and officially submits it. And Step 3, the final approval is granted by the CAC or SAIA. Those are the state-level expert appraisal committees and environmental authorities that ensure everything is ecologically sound. So it's a very structured chain of command, moving from local drafting, up to state-level submission, and finally to environmental approval.
Section 3. The committee breakdown. The 5-member task force.
Let's zoom in on that very first step for a second, because the composition of this 5-member task force is actually brilliantly designed to balance competing interests.
First, you have the subdivisional magistrate, handling the local administration side of things. Then you have an officer from the irrigation department, keeping a close eye on water resources. You've also got a representative from the State Pollution Control Board to monitor the environmental impact. Plus, there's an officer from the forest department to protect wooded areas. And finally, rounding it out, the district geologist or mining officer, bringing in that heavy technical mineral expertise. By forcing these 5 distinct bureaucratic perspectives into one single committee, the DSR system ensures that, before a single mineral is ever mined, the water, the forest, pollution, and local administrative concerns are all structurally accounted for.
Section 4. Updates and Addendums. The life cycle of a DSR.
All right, so the committee writes the draft, the nodal authority submits it, and it gets approved. But is it just set in stone forever? For that, we turn to the second page of our source document. This page contains the critical operational rules for what happens after a DSR is active. Because let's face it, policies like this need a mechanism to deal with the passage of time and the reality of constantly changing landscapes. And the magic number here is 5. According to the memorandum, a DSR for sand, riverbed, and other minor minerals can be updated once every 5 years. This provides a really necessary level of stability. It means the industry and regulators know they have a reliable master plan that won't just be arbitrarily changed every few months, but it also ensures the data doesn't just sit there and become decades out of date.
But, the government also recognized that nature is totally unpredictable. What if a massive new mineral deposit is discovered in, say, year 2 of that 5-year cycle? Well, the memorandum includes this specific clause. If new resource comes to the knowledge of Geology and Mining Department, addition in the DSR can be effected as supplementary/addendum DSR. This perfectly illustrates the flexibility built into the system. You don't have to sit around waiting for 5 years to account for a new discovery. You can just issue a supplementary addendum to keep the DSR accurate and legally compliant in real time.
So we've seen the problem, we've identified the nodal authority, broken down the committee, and explored the update cycle. But the memorandum ends with a fascinating legal caveat. It explicitly states that this entire clarification is subject to the outcome of a pending Supreme Court civil appeal, Union of India Viva Rajiv Suri. So I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder. With the highest court in the land still reviewing these broader matters, is this newly clarified DSR process finally settled, or is it merely resting before its next evolution? Thank you so much for joining me to decode this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.